MMA Guru posted a video last night explaining why his show with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is no longer continuing. I did a video on this yesterday, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that Guru says in this video. My name is James Lynch. So you can see here, this is about 45 minutes, 46 minutes around there. We'll go through some of the things that he said in here, and I want to give my thoughts on this and explain a few things, because I know yesterday I was pretty much just reacting to the news of the show being taken off. Now I've got a lot more information to kind of work with, so we'll dig into some of the things that he says here. I made it pretty clear in the video yesterday, but some people didn't get the memo. I don't agree with Guru calling Dagestani or Muslim fighters the I word. I'm not even going to say it on here. Some of the things that are clearly crossing the line, and you guys can say whatever you want in response to that. That's not how I roll. I don't like doing hate stuff. And I know there was some stuff that came out as well that I didn't mention in the video that I found out after the fact about certain things that were said about Chito Vera's daughter. I don't agree with that either. I'm a father. I have kids. I would not want anyone saying that about my family as well. So just so we're clear on that, but that stuff does cross the line, and I get people being upset with that. I had people accusing me of all types of things yesterday, even though I clearly said yesterday in the video, I don't support hate content. That's not the type of stuff I like doing. That's not to say I'm above anyone else, but that's not the type of content I like making. It's the type of content I don't like watching. So first, around the 4-minute mark, Guru explains what happened, the whole situation of the show not continuing. We talked a little bit about this yesterday with some of the tweets that he has, but here's Guru himself talking about the show no longer continuing.
And I can't have Demetrius Johnson's great legacy getting dragged through the dirt, so I stepped down. I stepped down basically after this podcast dropped. We had a conversation, and even before the podcast as well, we had a beginning of a conversation about this where I was basically told, you need to stop calling them names. And DJ's absolutely in the right for this. There should be no hatred towards Demetrius Johnson here. And I can't stress that enough. He didn't really know what kind of animal he was getting in it with. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you're in my world, friend. You know what I mean? Get out of there. You're in the MMA Guru world. Okay? And there's going to be problems. Okay? They're going to be often. He's hanging around Team Habib, and I'm calling him. And then he's going to do the show with me. And he was just telling me, like, that can't happen. Fair. Very fair. And then there's even other stuff that was going on. And this has been building. Then there was the Raja Jackson thing, which, you know, it's just like little things that just kept adding on and on and on.
So yeah, he kind of, and this is sort of a misconception that maybe I didn't explain well enough in the video yesterday. It was Guru's decision to stop the show. You know, I had the thumbnail yesterday as canceled, but it wasn't that Guru or Demetrius Johnson got canceled. Guru just made the decision not to continue the show. Nobody canceled them. They run the show themselves. There was no one coming in, as far as I know, that said, hey, you can't do the show anymore. Guru's basically doing this because he doesn't want Demetrius Johnson to feel the backlash of this. And I do believe Guru when he says that Johnson didn't know what type of animal he was getting, you know, dealing with in Guru, because he does a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff that's been said over the number of years he's been doing things on YouTube. I'm sure he knew he said some edgy stuff and things that crossed the line, but I don't think he anticipated it would be this bad. So Guru's basically saying, like, look, like, I don't have a problem with the backlash. I don't want you to be affected, because Demetrius Johnson, like he explains a little bit later here, you know, considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. He has a family. Like, this is starting to affect his personal life by being associated with Guru, which we all kind of saw this coming, right? We knew this was going to be a backlash because they're in two completely different worlds, so to speak. Now, here's the part of the interview where he breaks down step by step how the text messages went between the show ending. And you can clearly see here that Guru is telling Demetrius Johnson, like, look, I don't want to cause you any more headache. We're going to step down and, you know, not do the show anymore.
And I said, hey, DJ, I'm down to back off the pod if it works. Just simple message. I said, don't feel like you have to keep me on to not get backlash from my fan base. Very important that we don't be like these fucking losers on Twitter right now talking about, oh, we caused this, we cancelled this. No one cares about you, dude. And I said, you're a GOAT, and your image in front of current champs and fighters is more important than the continuation of the pod, which is true on his side of things. And I said, plus, I can't promise that it won't happen, in brackets, not as severely, but again. And then we also went on to discuss after, they're going at DJ on Twitter. Like, that's the big deal here. I couldn't care less about people coming at me. They're not going to watch my videos anyway. If you're offended by this, you're not going to watch the videos anyway. I don't give a about your But I cared that DJ is being slandered, and I don't want to be the guy that ruined Demetrius Johnson's legacy.
And then here's a part in the video where he talks about how Demetrius Johnson wants to handle it. Obviously, things got accelerated a little bit on social media, but here's Guru talking about what Demetrius Johnson's plan was initially for them to announce the show is no longer continuing.
He said he's not going to go on Twitter and announce it. I'll do a show in December, and when people ask me, I'll just be honest. So that was his plan. That was DJ's plan. He's going to do a show in December on his own. And he's just going to mention, oh yeah, MMA Guru is no longer on the pod. He's being controversial to some of my fighter friends. He basically stood his base and was Team Habib and Team Marab, like who are his friends, over Team the old MMA Guru, which is absolutely fair. And I was talking even before this, I was saying I could mention this in a video tomorrow. Because Twitter's going off like trashing you right now. I was mentioning that even before in the conversation.
So that's what accelerated it. People going after Demetrius
obviously
Johnson.
They're trashing me, but that's who cares about that? Always do that. They're lame as. And then I said I'm gonna get a video out of this 100%. Just a heads up. So there you go. That's it. I think it's fair.
Now, here's a part in his response where he talks about, being featured on like mainstream UFC stuff. He talks about being featured in the Countdown, which, a lot of us have been in the Countdown a bunch of times. And, I'm just pointing this out because there's people in the comments being like, no one cares about Guru. Like, he has one of the biggest channels in the space. This is why I'm doing a video on this. And even the UFC recognizes his numbers. That's why they're featuring him there. If the UFC didn't want to associate themselves with someone like Guru, they're not going to add him in the video. So here's Guru talking about being featured in the Countdown, which has happened a couple times now. So here's him talking about it.
This is bad because he is in his prime now. Boom. I was in UFC 300 Countdown. The UFC were emailing me saying, hello, MMA Guru, we'd love to get you on the countdowns. This was for a countdown before this as well, and a one before that. I've been in 3 different countdowns.
So he kind of talks here about like he's had big opportunities come his way, but he feels like he needs to be his self, which is, again, this person that people either love or they hate. There's no sort of in between with Guru here. He's turned down that because he wants to be true to what he does. And I kind of knew this was going to happen. He's not going to apologize. He's not going to show any remorse. He's just going to go out there and be like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. So that's just how he is. Again, I don't agree with some of the stuff that he says, but he's not a phony either because he's just sticking to his guns on this whole issue. So later on in this, Guru talks about the success of the show. He talks about the views and all these different things. And then one key thing he hits on here is that he talks about how he can't get fighter interviews. And this is something I've talked about on my channel a long time ago. I mean, this is how I make my living, is interviewing fighters. And I knew this was going to happen. And there's a lot of creators in the space that will have the same problem, that I'm sure do have the same problem, where if you're going to make content where you're hating on fighters and crapping on them and all that, you can't expect them or their management or anyone there to grant you interview access. I know Guru gets a number of names on. He's had like Patty and DDP and Aspinall and a number of the big names that are on, but I think, you're going to alienate yourself from other fighters when you talk badly about them. And I think this is something that I wanted to bring up because, this comes into my world a bit. Like, interview access is important. Like you can't be upset that a fighter's not going to do an interview, but then also support what Guru's saying and hating on certain fighters and all that, right? So these are things that kind of all tie in together.
This is just how it is. I'm evil. Okay, guys, I'm an evil. You don't want no part of this. And that goes to everyone. That goes to fighters that are all of a sudden no longer answering my calls for interviews. Hey, Guru, why couldn't you get the so-and-so interview? Managers are talking, Yeah. Managers are talking for me, guys, okay? And I'm not speaking.
And by the way, like I said before, this goes for a lot of creators, right? Like I think there's a lot of people being like, why can't you do more interviews to do this? Well, if your entire content is based off hating fighters and saying really, over the line things, this is what's going to happen. So Guru knew this going in, but it's just something I think it's important to highlight that like there's a lot of his fans out there being like, I love Guru because he speaks the truth. But then the other side of it is he's not going to get interview access. It's just the way it works.
Speaking to the fighters anymore. I'm speaking to managers, and the managers are saying we're busy. Okay, we don't want this. So I feel like there's just this general shunning of me. But it makes sense for DJ to distance. I need to stress that more.
Now, here's a part in the video that I actually agree with him with. So he goes in to talk about a tweet that Benny P had out, which is basically since the fight with Jack Della Maddalena, we've seen a lot of Islam Makhachev fans go and basically harass Jack Della Maddalena's wife, because I believe she had a caption up on her Instagram before the fight saying, "See ya, Islam," just as like kind of like a tongue-in-cheek joke that Jack was going to beat Islam Makhachev. And Guru goes in about how the fan base is, doing kind of the same stuff that they're accusing his fan base of doing, which is like harassment and, going to all ends. And obviously nothing racist is here, but there are some comments in here that do cross the line.
Why are we acting like I can't talk these fans? they're perfect because they're different. That's the mindset of a lot of people in this world nowadays. I can talk anyone I want. If they're doing wild, I'm going to make a comment back. Ending with this, because I didn't want to use it as any kind of like leverage over the whole context of this video. I insult Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's Irish fans tell me if I'm ever here, they'll knock me out. I'm a fat. They'll call me something like that on Instagram.
I'm glad he brings this up too, because this is another sort of misconception I see on social media, is that the Islam fans claim that Guru only goes after his fan base. I mean, he does it a lot and he says some stuff that cross the line. I'm not denying that, but there's this idea that they're being singled out, and that's simply not true. Guru's done videos on John Jones, on McGregor. He's done a lot of videos going after a lot of different fighters and their fans. And this is something I agree with him here, where it's like, you can't just say he's doing it to one person. He's doing it to all of them. It's not good, but they're also displaying behavior that's similar to what him and his fans are doing. Because I've seen it myself. I've seen the obsessiveness. And then they use this whole thing as like, well, we get attacked, but then they never call out the attacks on their fan base. And Guru talks a little bit more about their fans a little bit later. Let's hear what he has to say.
I insult John Jones. Jones's fans call me a name. Maybe they're a slur for white people. I don't care at all. I don't give a about that. That's some victim shit. But they'll call me a name, and then they'll say, if I ever see you around here, I'll knock you out. You best hope that you're with security if you're ever at a UFC event, or I'll knock you out. I'll get some shit like that. I insult these guys and their fan base. This has been going on for a very long time. When I said Khabib's record was padded, and I mentioned that he was married to his cousin in a theatrical way, to say the very least.
Shouldn't say that, but yeah.
And they're threatening me with my life. They're threatening to do things to my parents. They're threatening to do things like behead. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to threaten to, and this is the big thing, where maybe I get more angry than usual towards them and their fan base compared to anyone else. Because why? What really is it about them? They're white guys. They're Caucasians. I know they believe differently. But the thing is, they're fans, and this is something to very quickly distinguish. The Dagestani fans that they have do not say shit like this.
100%. He's right here.
Mickey Osbarn is not a Dagestani person posting this in the comments. Okay? Just to keep that very clear. You can go through some of these. MWTX Lewis. Ahanaf posting a Makachev gift. Darren. All of these guys. Ibrahim. I know this guy, Ibrahim, is probably a Dagestani guy. This is the difference. They're actual people. Do not talk like this.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
So they get
right
caught
here
in the crossfire along with not the real this or what the
Yeah, exactly. This is this type of stuff that like, listen, Guru's fans do this stuff, to be clear. There's that there, and that's bad and it's wrong. My issue, and I agree with him here, why are they not calling that stuff out with their own fans? They don't do it. Instead, they play this victim role where they are being accused of, saying that the majority of fans are going after them. There is a bit of a double standard, and I'm glad he's pointing this out, because I think all this stuff should be called out. All the bad stuff. Racist, bigoted, whatever you want to call it. This is not a good comment, and there should be people coming and condemning this, and you don't see that. Because they turn it around as like, well, it happens to us, so we can get away. We don't have to mention it when our fans are doing it. I bring this up time and time again. There's not another fan base in this sport that will claim someone is racist for having a different opinion than the Dagestani Muslim fans, whatever you want to call them, the people that support Khabib, Islam, all that. They use racism all the time. And there's legit racism. We've talked about it here in this video, right? That some of the stuff that Guru said, a lot of the things that his fans have said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not racist or bigoted, for sure. Whatever you want to call it. People are going to say, well, they're white, they're not racist. I'm just saying in general, the stuff that's said is that. But the problem is, that's real racism. This isn't. Saying that you think Volkanovski beat Islam in the first fight is not racist. But here's Arnold Allen saying that fans are attacking him and calling him racist because of that. That's the problem. The problem with the actual racist stuff that's being said, and this is why I don't like a lot of the things that Guru and his fans say, is now we have fans that simply criticize a Dagestani or Muslim fighter and they're labeled as racist. We got to get rid of this stuff in the sport. I don't see this from other fan bases. If you see this, let me know. But I don't see Aljamain Sterling fans, if people don't like him, claim that they are being racist towards African Americans. You just don't see that. That's the difference here. So I think Guru is 100% right about the double standard that's going on. Even the people that are, upset with Guru and the stuff he said, we're seeing comments like this where you're talking about someone that Islam had sexually assaulted your husband, like that's gross, man. That's terrible. So anyways, that's just my thoughts on it.
They constantly talk about stuff like this. They'll harass people's family. I know people will call me a victim for bringing that up. But can you see how maybe, just maybe, that would create some general animosity towards that fan base?
Now, this should not be an excuse for fighting hate with hate, but all this stuff needs to get called out. This is something that we need to discuss. If we're going to talk about Guru and everything that's happened over the last little bit and him not doing his show anymore, we have to talk about all the bad stuff because it all ties together. You can't just say that this guy's horrible, but then ignore the other stuff. That's the main thing that I get out of this. And again, I think we just got to be transparent about everything here, and I don't see that happening with the majority of MMA fans. So last thing Guru talks about in this video, again, is just kind of summarizing everything up and again, reiterating the fact that he was not canceled. He is basically, he was the one that decided to end the show. He doesn't want any backlash going to Demetrius Johnson further. He does interviews. He's respected in the industry, and just again, hammering home that like this was a decision that he made and kind of clearing up some of the, rumors and sort of things that are out there that aren't true about this entire situation.
This is Demetrius Johnson we're talking about here. He's the GOAT. He's the nice guy of the sport, no blemishes. And I've come along and I've made all of these blemishes on him. What else has DJ ever done to warrant this level of trashing? It's because of me. I know that. I think the trashing of Tom is somewhat because of me. Like when I affiliate with people that hate me are going to be like taken out on them. And that's what we're seeing with this on Twitter towards DJ. How's he platforming this guy? And people are calling him like animals that get into the bins in America. Something to do with porch. I've seen a lot of that going around on Twitter as well. And DJ goes, I don't need that shit. He keeps telling me that. And I agree. He don't need that. So I'm calling it off.
So yeah, that's kind of the summary of the video is that he just, he comes out here, he explains that he was the one that ended it. He wasn't canceled. And these are, this is how everything sort of transpired. And like I said, like, the bigoted stuff, the racist stuff, I'm not about that. I don't support that at all. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What did you think of Guru's response here? Do you think he's ever going to collab again with anyone again after this whole incident? I don't know how anyone would, because it comes with a lot of baggage if that's going to take place. So let me know your thoughts on everything here. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram @LynchOnSports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.